Welcome to PuckTalkCS. I'm Chives alongside my main man, Steve-O. That is actually alongside. We've been waiting a long time for this very moment to get things set up, and it took a little while, not only from the loss in the first round for the Rangers. We recorded a few episodes. We decided we wanted to rebrand everything. So here we are. Steve-O, it's great to be like side by side.
Oh my goodness, Chives, this is amazing. And this has been 8 years in the making, believe it or not. Shout out to all the day ones, for real. But welcome to season 6. Let's kick this off here, Chives. We got a whole bunch coming up this season. Puck Talk is back and better than ever. We've been hard at work all off season long, redoing the whole Puck Talk brand. So why don't we start off with some changes that is going to be come up for season 6 of PuckTalkCS. Start us off.
Yeah, we started with social media stuff. You saw the Instagram. We changed a lot with that. Scoreboards, our thoughts, stories, posting a lot on there. We want to change, obviously, where our appearance and where we're sitting and make a little more of an interactive experience. And that way you see us, you see how we're talking. That changes a lot. That changes the dynamics of a lot. And of course, video content like this is going on YouTube. We're thinking about continuing to do live streams, but the one thing that is certified and concrete is a completely redesigned website, which we're so excited for. It's going to be a lot easier to look at, more visually appealing. It will have more content. So we're really excited for the fact that we changed the studio, the website. We really changed it all from the bottom up, and it took a lot of work. So we were away from the mic, but we figured you're getting your content from news sources, right? Like Steve and I are not the first people there, but at the same time, we wanted to be able to share our opinions, and that's the point of the podcast. So we decided quicker episodes as well. Within 25, 30 minutes each episode, we're going to get right to it. Today's a little bit different. First time kind of talking and dispersing this information.
Yeah, and the website, if you haven't got the chance to check it out yet, not sure what platform you guys are listening to this, but it really is customizable. It's going to be more of a more full so we really engage all of our fans and all of our listeners throughout the podcast. So again, check it out. You can learn more about the Puck Talk history. You can learn more about me and Chives, everything. So without further ado, let's kick off season 6. Let's talk some puck. And oh boy, I've been waiting all summer to say that. Now how about this? Chives this year is going to be doing, I think, the coolest thing ever. He's got the most awesome opportunity. We're going to get a little bit of an inside scoop here on PuckTalkCS coming up on possibly some game days. So Chives, why don't you tell everybody what your experience is going to be? We talked about it a little bit here and there, and if you're follow us on the gram, you might know, but for those of you who don't, what's that going on?
Yeah, so obviously real world post school. Steve-O's still kicking at it, baby. He's still going.
Still rolling.
Yeah, it's great to see, me and Steve-O keeping this going. But yeah, so following school, I mean, like the end of school in April, I got a really, really great opportunities with college hockey and kind of continued in that and still have interest in that. But I applied and started writing for Fansided's website, Blue Line Station. Wrote on there for about a month, just emailed the Hockey News, which is now owned by Sports Illustrated. Like they publish things on their website now, they're partners. And they created these team websites. So Johnny, I met Lazarus at a game at MSG through Avery Zaretsky. And from there, I just got his contact info. We've had him on Puck Talk before. He ends up being the person that responds back to me. And it's like, yeah, I'm the only person writing for the right now. So I will be writing for the Hockey News and that media credentials. So I will be Madison Square Garden for home games. I will be in Tarrytown at the practice facility. So that's going to also bring a lot more information alongside things. You're going to listen, podcasting is the new wave. You have guys like Vince Mercogliano. He has the New York Ice podcast. You have Johnny Blue Crew. They're blowing up right now, and he's got a lot of connections in the industry. So you have some people that are on the forefront, but for us here at Puck Talk, it's great because I'll have that accessibility. I'm so excited. I've already written a lot. I posted a lot on Puck Talk, but yeah, that's the next step. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and of course, we always post Matt's articles on the Instagram, so go check it out. They really are great reads, so great on that. So let's jump right in. Let's talk some puck here. Now, Chives, for me, the NHL offseason is really, for me, I think it's really short. in terms when you think of all the four major sports, compared to football, compared to baseball, even basketball, I really think NHL has the shortest off season. However, this one's felt like a long one, especially when you lose to the New Jersey Devils in round one in horrible fashion.
Yeah, it felt like that was took a lot to shake off. At least that's how I saw it. Like for a while, I took a while to shake off. And you say to yourself, like you look at Ranger history, like they have so many rivals, right? They're a very historic team. You have different rivals from different generations. They're always going to come back, right? And I think at the end of the day, you're going to lose every now and then to a rival. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's been a while since I think Ranger fans have had to face that. When you lose to Tampa, it's like, well, they went to 3 straight Cup finals, right? Like, all right, like they're superpower. They have some of our former players, but the Devils are a team that you hated to see do that because it looked like for a while it was going to take longer for them to rebuild. Now, something I will say though is they got smoked by Carolina, but yeah, I hear you. Long off season. I would actually say baseball is a short off season, but you're right. I'll be at training camp next week, so it's crazy to think like from May 1st and when we started reconstructing everything with Puck Talk to now, Steve-O, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. And on top of it, there wasn't a lot of pizzazz with the cap. I know this is going to be the big conversation. We're just recapping here because we know you've read enough, you've seen enough. Now let's see those players hit the ice. But you saw a few players come to New York, Steve-O, and they weren't the splashes they made like Tarasenko and Kane.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why the New York Rangers had kind of that sluggish offseason is because you look at the expectation. The expectation when you have Tarasenko, when you have Kane, on and go out there
Yeah.
and when you look at the expect here and then you look at it,
A long time, all we talked about on Puck Talk was when was it going to pop? And then the pressure mounted because now you have Vlad and Kaner, and it's like, this has got to be, a point in time where you think like this team could really go the distance. And in 97, the Rangers had Robitaille, Gretzky, Messier, Gravy, Mike Richter in net, right? They had Brian Leach. They had studs. They were a studded team. They lost to the Flyers in the conference final series in 97. That was following a lockout in 95, a half lockout. Things changed in New York rapidly after Iron Mike leads them to the Stanley Cup in 94. But there have been times where there's superstars on the team and they just don't make it that far. But this is really, I wouldn't say that it's not the first time in franchise history or the club's history, but it's hard to see, like, you say, man, how'd they not win with Wayne Gretzky? But at least they played the Legion of Doom in 97. They didn't even make it out of the first round. So I think you're right. Expectation mounted, and this is their bitter rival. And that series was weird.
Yeah, it was. And the expectation for this season, I think, is a weird vibe coming into this. We were talking about this the other day before we got a chance to come on the air, but we put a little bit of a poll on the Instagram. This kind of surprised me. Now, it hasn't even started yet. I don't think it's anything.
Yeah.
But we put now the Rangers finished for, I believe, 107 points last year. This year they're betting on all the DraftKings and FanDuel. They have 103 wins. Are you going to finish above 103 or below 103? We put that up on the poll on the Instagram.
And points.
Points. And I was totally shocked that more than half our viewers, and we had a lot of people answer this, was 48% of the fans, and most of them are Ranger fans, said that they think the Rangers are going to finish below 103 points, which to me, I was very surprised. Out of all the Ranger fans that I've talked to and everything I'm hearing on the radio, and I read the Bleacher Report community comments too in the Rangers fan section, it's not that fans believe that this is going to be a bad season, but it kind of seems like the expectations kind a bit lower this year, which as a fan is definitely through the whole list of them, but I still think that expectation is high.
Yeah, and you know what I think is wrong about you, like you're saying, I see where that's coming from with the Metropolitan Division, right? Like Pittsburgh's going to be better. The Islanders are going to be better. They didn't sweep their division opponents last year. So the reason they were winning all these games wasn't because of that. They weren't very good on the road in at least their California and Pacific trips. They lost to Seattle. They had to come back against LA. They lost to Anaheim at Anaheim's a low point in November. So I think if you look at last season, they lost to the Islanders. Like they played them 4 times before the new year, 2023. They played them in 2022, 3 games. They got smoked in the first game at UBS, and then they lost in 2 comebacks. So I think for the Rangers, like, yes, the division's getting better, but at the same time, it's not like they beat those teams to begin with. So I'd argue and say, yeah, Steve, I see what you're saying, and it's gonna be interesting. I don't know if they're gonna put up a lot of points. To me, it feels like 13, 14 in the sense of like last season felt like 16, 17 to me. Like they brought in Eric Stahl and it was like, let's see what he does. And then like he kind of really didn't do a lot. And that's how Kane and Tarasenko felt like, all right, when's the point where they're going to do something? I would say more so for Kane. And I love both their games. I mean, they're heroes of ours from when we were kids. And you look at them now, different players now than they were. But at the same time, 16, 17 felt like, all right, well, we finished top in the, one of the top teams in the division. Didn't really feel like it. And then they just got, killed by Pittsburgh. I felt like that last year. Like it felt like we were waiting for something to happen with that lofty expectation. The Rangers that season were coming off the conference final game 7 against Tampa, right?
Yeah. And the thing, and I said this to you before, and we said this in the State of the Union, and I said this all off season, is that this really is, I don't want to say a defining moment in this when it comes to this franchise, but this is such an important year for the New York Rangers. You look at going to the Eastern Conference Finals against Tampa, the expectation was set even higher. You bring in a guy like Trocheck, how many more years are you going to get out of Zibanejad and Kreider when they're playing at a top level that they are playing right now? So you're coming in and then you have a totally dud of a season that just falls short. You can't even get out of the first round. So this year is a big year for the Rangers. And there's a lot you could point to last year. We don't want to go back and revisit the same points, but very quickly you take a look at, you had Tarasenko, you had Kane for less than 2 months. It was a month and a half.
Yeah.
It really wasn't enough time to adjust to the lines.
Yeah.
And especially
he wasn't a gallant player either.
Of course.
I never understood that. A lot of people were like, oh, well, first Kane put up 6 points, so it wasn't terrible, but and he made some defensive plays, which shocked me with the way he is, and the style of player he is. He's a really skilled guy, but yeah, he wasn't a gallant style player. So I always thought that was funny. Like I see now, like the acquisitions they made in the offseason are a little more like fit the bill for what they need, right?
Yeah, it fits the bill for what the Rangers want this season.
Yeah.
And I think the main priority when it comes to the season is we need a couple of our players, especially the kids. We'll get into them a lot this season.
Yeah.
We need them to get to the next level.
Yep.
And I think the additions that we made are perfect. We didn't bring in a Patrick Kane. We didn't bring in a Tarasenko this offseason. They're not away. Give the opportunity to the Heatles, to the Lofgren, and show that crazy and sign any to long-term extent of players. Panarin is the main one. We need existing players to step up and really fit into this new philosophy that that is going to be brought to the table, especially bringing in, a new coaching style.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Laviolette handles everything. And like you said, you got Blake Wheeler. Like that's a player that he's making 10 times less the amount of money he made last season. And to me, steal. I mean, what changed in his game? His age. And listen, the thing is, you looked at Kane and said, yeah, well, his game aged. And he's not going to produce the same way he had. And he's still going to be good, right? You saw that with every generation, right? Yager got to that point in his career. Gretzky, Messi, the whole 90s era, Mario Lemieux, like they get to a point where they are a little bit brand, but that's fine. But that's not what the Rangers were expecting when they brought in Kane. They were not expecting, Kane to kind of be the player he is, but not produce at the same level or play in the playoffs at that, that pace. Whereas you bring in Blake Wheeler and it's like the ceiling for him to break and impress is very low. It's very low. And as you mentioned, Kako, Lafreniere, Hedel, they'll be in better positions next year because of it.
Yeah, and I think maybe this is the coaching style that they need.
Mhm.
You kind of look back and see, okay, there was a lot of guys from top down to the bottom that Gallant kind of shoved out, not in terms of playing, but in terms of their style, in
Yeah.
terms of the pay, how he wanted to run this team. And Panarin's definitely the guy on the top of the list. Maybe some of the kids too. So I'm definitely interested in seeing this. And I think another thing that should be on top of the priority list this year is load management. We take a look at in the playoffs round one. I mean, Adam Fox was absolutely gas last year, and when it came to round one, the playoffs, and he played a full year last year.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that, and of course, obviously keeping Lindgren is always a top priority, but we need to make sure that our top defensive pair that isn't gonna be this entire season by the time they aren't worn out and tired. Now, obviously, you get to the playoffs, there's going to be a point where, everybody's worn out to an extent, but we don't want, Adam Fox out there on every single shift. I mean, he was all across that ice in the playoffs. So we definitely need to watch his load, especially early on in the season.
You know what? I thought Fox was one of the better performers actually all around for the Rangers. I think everyone points to game 7, so I understand that rebuttal. But for Fox, it really stemmed from Chris Drury. He was trying to be as patient as possible, right? Trying to move money. And because of that, Gallant loses a few players, and now he's deploying 4 defensemen in a game, an entire game. And that was the same game against LA that we thought we lost Mika Zibanejad for the season, blocking the shot. So you lost a bunch of players. And now Adam Fox is playing like 20 minutes a night, and that was for a few games where he was taking a hefty load. That's tough. It wears down. It adds up, and I think the calculations all were understandable at the time, and I won't judge them as harsh in hindsight now. I think now that we're removed from it, I see what the plan was, what they tried to do. It didn't work. You have these players under contract still. Like, it's not like last season you lose Adam Fox. You lost in the first round, and now, oh, there's no Mika, there's no Kreider. Like, we have all of our guys are unrestricted free agents. Like, Chris Drury probably looked and said, we got these guys for a little bit longer. We went for the shot with the super team. Let's see what we can do with these guys and see what they could come up with. Again, like you said, loan management. I don't know if it's like NBA style. It's more just about like don't lean on him too heavy. And I think some that'll help that. We didn't bring up Gustafsson, like Fox having some help on the power play. Like, I think having a power play too that can really play might help, because even under Gallant, like, it was always Kreider's advantage at Fox, Panarin, right? Like, it was always those guys out there.
Yep. And let's be honest, Gustafsson is better than Mikkola, I think, hands down. Even from an offensive standpoint, Gustafsson kind of brings that to the table, whereas Mikkola did not. I think Mikkola went to Florida. Florida, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Got a nice contract there. But I'd rather have him than Mikkola. I think a lot of Ranger fans were kind of sick of him. I think he kind of fit what we needed at the time, but moving in again, this is a new season. It's a brand new slate. Everything from last season gets wiped out the window, and it's a fresh start, which I think we need.
Yeah, you know what? I'm all for the media hype and push for things, and I'm excited too. I will say this though, I'm not the biggest predictions guy, because I don't know how many times I could point and say, did you think St. Louis was gonna win the Stanley Cup in 2019? Game 7 in Boston, TD friggin' Garden. Panthers last season, do you think they were gonna go all the way? No. So I don't love the whole like Carolina's an elite team, so they're gonna make the Cup final. Like, that's not how it works, and it's not how it's ever worked. And I think sometimes, especially fans get excited, but they buy into that, and I like to avoid that. And I think that's where I have faith in this Rangers team is the 2013-14 New York Rangers in October, November, December. They weren't a team that you looked and said, cup favor right here. Brian Boyle even said it on the Blue Crew. Johnny interviewed him with, on the Blue Crew podcast. And he said, we didn't really believe until, we won game 5 at the Garden in that Penguin series, like to turn that series around.
Yeah.
They didn't really believe it. So there's points in the season where things like that happen. And bringing up a guy like Brian Boyle, you saw Carl Hagelin retire. I think a lot of fans recently have reminisced and said, we need guys like that in the lineup. And I think that's what Chris Drury went and got. And I think that was necessary to plug in. Like Boyle, like game 7 against Pittsburgh, scores the opening goal. He had shorthanded goals in the Cup final. Carl Hagelin, Derek Brassard, like these were guys that you didn't say, oh man, Kaner, oh man, Tarasenko, man. And listen, it was awesome to see them in Broadway Blue, but I think that's where I have faith with this season. And it's coming up very soon.
Oh, more than very soon. Right around the corner.
Yeah.
We're so excited here. Last point I'll make here before we wrap up the start of season 6. I really think getting off to a fast start is going to be really key for these Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what the Devils did last year. That propelled them. There was a point where they kind of fell off at the end of the season.
Yeah.
When they acquired Timo, and Timo really didn't have any sort of an impact at the end of the regular season.
I didn't think you really did in the playoffs either. And that's going to be different. We know that. But...
Oh, sure. But in the same sense, you just said it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
The Devils are not going to win or go on that crazy win streak again.
They're not winning 15 in November.
They're not winning 15 in a row again.
Yeah.
Early on. So you look at that, you take a look at Carolina's been pretty strong. So there's just a whole lot of moving factors. You don't know what you're going to get out of Pittsburgh. They're struggling to fill all the holes on their sinking ship right there. They want to stay in contention after last year's debacle. So again, you really don't know what to expect.
Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff series since 2018. Keep that in mind. Carolina, again, swept in the conference final. So they didn't win a game in the conference final, granted, 4 overtimes. There's narrative aspects, there's stats, there's numbers. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, Steve-O, new season ahead. Rangers, they get out of the gate. It'll help them. But we'll see what happens as things start to build. Training camps next week, and we'll have plenty more Puck Talk CS coming your way for that.
Well, as you've seen, new website, please check it out. We've been working on it all summer long. It looks fantastic. And again, there's a lot to go and play around with. So please check that out. And as always, follow us on Instagram at PuckTalkCS. You can check us out on Spotify. You can check us out on iTunes. And that'll wrap us up here for the start of season 6, first ever in-person episode, Chives. How did this go? This is awesome.
Awesome. I like it a lot better. I hope you guys enjoy this format, and I think it makes for a better conversation and a better listen. And yeah, we got plenty more coming your way. This feels great. And just keep on keeping on in Rangers land. And I'll be at Tarrytown next week, so I'll be bringing a lot of information down here in the stew, and of course on the hockey news too. So I'm really excited to get started. And Steve-O, I think it does make for a better listen, man.
100%. Always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.